We go through a presidential campaign every 4 years. Democrats and Republicans, they both say, this is the most important election in our lifetime, and if the opponent wins, our democracy will be over. They claim that if our politician wins, your life will be euphoric. Most of us pick a side in this fight. We believe the rhetoric of our side. We believe that we're on the side of the right. We believe that the other side is either crazy or evil. In this video, I will explain why this is a fake fight and why we should engage in a real debate to improve our country. My name is Jeff Schuster, and you're watching Reengineering Politics, which provides objective information on political matters so that you can make informed decisions for a better America. Here we are in 2024. Donald Trump, the Republican nominee, is running against whoever the Democratic Party nominee will be this year, and it appears that the Democratic nominee is going to be Kamala Harris now that Joe Biden has stepped aside. It really doesn't matter, honestly, who's running. The fake fight will rage on, and it's going to be fueled by the biased news media that needs this fake fight to drive advertising revenue. If Donald Trump wins, Democrats will try to gain power in Congress to impeach him at every turn. They're going to find any accusation and try to make it stick. It will be no different for a Democratic Party president. This is no way to run our government. We have genuine differences between Democrats and Republicans. This is what I consider to be the real fight. And frankly, I don't even prefer to call it a fight at all. It's more of a debate. This real debate exists on distinct topics that deserve more attention than who is running for president. Here's a limited list of the most important political topics: racial justice, criminal justice, border security, education, health care, government spending, taxation, climate change, abortion, foreign relations, gun control, and immigration. I wrote a book to discuss each of these issues in depth. In my book, I describe the position of the left, the right, and the center. These positions are based on opinions. Some are going to argue that scientific research is backing their position in some way. As an engineer, I am really tired of hearing the spin from both sides. I genuinely care about these topics. I care about the facts, all the facts. I'm a huge Perry Mason fan. And if you've ever watched Perry Mason, you can quickly identify the good guys and the bad guys. The good guys are Perry Mason and his cadre of assistants who defend the innocent when they're accused of a crime that will land them in the gas chamber. The bad guys are the District Attorney Hamilton Berger and his sidekick, Lieutenant Tragg. These two arrest and try to convict Mason's clients in court. If you pay close attention, both sides play a key role in discovering the truth. The district attorney's side does its duty and arrests the most obvious perpetrator of the crime. Perry Mason's side digs deep to find the truth, which they believe will exonerate their client. Now, in real life, the defendant doesn't win against the prosecution as much as Perry Mason won against Berger. However, in real life, a better version of the truth is discovered when fair and open debate is allowed in a court of law with a fair and impartial judge and jury. This is why we need the left and the right. We need them to come to the debate stage with facts supporting their view of the world. We don't need them to fight indefinitely until they convince the public that they're correct, regardless of the truth. We also don't need them to come to what I call the ugly compromise. An ugly compromise occurs when both sides compromise to give each other something that they want, which makes our country a worse place to live. The left believes that our world is doomed because we're pumping carbon dioxide into the atmosphere with the burning of fossil fuels. Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas and it's causing warming of our atmosphere. An overwhelming majority of climate scientists have confirmed this fact. We must convert to electric everything and abandon any dirty fossil fuel as quickly as possible before we pass the point of no return. The right believes that a large part of the U.S. economy depends on fossil fuel extraction and fossil fuel use for our livelihood. While climate scientists claim that humans are causing warming, the planet has shown signs of warming and cooling without the aid of humans for eons. Many on the right believe that climate change is a hoax designed to usher in a type of globalism that will threaten the sovereignty of the United States. So there you have it. I realize that I've not laid out both sides fairly and completely. That's not the reason I brought up this issue. The fact is that both sides make legitimate points. With complex topics like this, important nuances are lost in a polarized fake fight. In the case of climate change, the left will argue that joining the Paris Climate Agreement is a sign that you're scientifically enlightened and you believe that climate change is a genuine threat that requires the United States to agree to carbon emission reductions. Likewise, the right believes that such membership is unfair towards the United States, unnecessary, and expensive. It confirms any paranoia that the United States is giving control to an unconstitutional power to govern its citizens. Again, both sides make good points. The one problem I had with the Perry Mason show was that each side wanted to win in court regardless of the truth. When the truth was revealed, the winning side, almost always Perry Mason, celebrated while the losing side showed frustration and returned in the next episode with confidence that this time would be different. In our political discourse, we have a much bigger problem. Like Perry Mason, both sides think that they are right and the other side is wrong. At least that's the rhetoric that we hear on the news. Here's what we really need to see on our news. We need to see a genuine search for the truth of any political matter. We need to hear fair arguments from both sides. Most importantly, both sides need to agree on how to proceed given the truth revealed during the real debate. In the case of our climate change example, I've published a centrist viewpoint in my book, Engineering Unity. This viewpoint happens to be a compromise between the left and the right. This compromise is not always the truth. However, in this case, I believe the centrist solution to climate change is the most reasonable given our current collection of facts. Sadly, most Americans will never hear the facts. Instead, they will tune into their favorite news network, which confirms their political views and fuels their greatest fears about the other side. This centrist solution that I've recommended involves a more gradual shift from fossil fuels to renewable energy and nuclear power. You can either read this solution in my book or watch a video on the same topic that I plan to publish soon. This is where you come in. I don't know who's watching this video. I don't know if you lean left or if you lean right or if you think you're a centrist. If you lean left, then stop getting offended by the attacks coming from the right. Lean into the information from the right that challenges the veracity of climate change. Don't start echoing the responses that you hear from the left to the right's argument. Think about how practical or impractical converting gas to electricity is and how such an immediate conversion can damage our economy and our environment. If you lean right, then learn about how the science of atmospheric warming happens with even minor concentrations of carbon dioxide. Stop defending your position that the world has always changed temperature and consider what we can do within reason to limit any negative impact humans have on the environment. I'm not advocating that either side give up its opinion. Frankly, by honestly considering the other side's opinion and doing your own research, you're bound to strengthen your argument. Can you imagine Perry Mason laughing at his opponent in court and calling him names instead of exposing hard facts that get to the truth? Well, I can. If this happened in the TV show, people would just stop watching. They'd stop trying to see how Perry Mason would uncover the truth. Unfortunately, in our fake fight, both sides become more entrenched. The left wants to fight the right instead of listening to the right, and the right wants to battle the left instead of listening to the left. While this fake fight rages, most Americans are either engaging in it or they're tuning out altogether. Both actions are not conducive to a healthy democratic republic. Given our current state of affairs, you may ask, well, how can we get from where we are today to this reasonable debate? Like stopping the spin of a wheel, we need to resist the spin of political rhetoric. Politicians expect to get resistance from the other side. They don't expect to get resistance from their side. So this is where the resistance must originate. If your representative in Congress is a Democrat, help him or her recognize the salient arguments of the right. Likewise, if your representative in Congress is a Republican, help him or her recognize the salient arguments of the left. You will be most effective in this spin resistance if you are a high-ranking member of your political party who is challenging your side's extreme views. Trust me, you'll be called a traitor and all kinds of bad names when you demonstrate any lukewarm support for partisan ideals. However, also believe that politicians are not foolish. If politicians believe that they can better win elections with more truthful and centrist rhetoric, they'll do it. If a left-leaning politician says, I'm committed to a cleaner environment, but I'm not convinced that wind and solar are our only options, they'd win over swing voters. They should also know that they will not lose base voters, as their base knows the right's not going to even come close to this kind of position in their green energy cause. Likewise, if a right-leaning politician says, I believe that we have a pathway to improve our environment that doesn't involve throwing our needed fossil fuel industry under the bus, they will also win over swing voters. The challenge that both of these politicians have is making it through their primary elections. The right-leaning politician who proclaims such lukewarm support for the oil industry against a drill baby drill candidate will be labeled a Republican in name only or a rhino. The left-leaning politician who proclaims a measured approach to converting to renewable energy against a climate activist will be labeled a climate denier. We know about this problem of primary elections sending the most extreme candidates to run in a general election to continue the fake fight. This is why many voters are dropping their political party affiliation. There is some good news. So many states understand that voters want a better primary election process that avoids fake fighters. In my home state of Colorado, 23% of voters have registered as Republicans, 26% have registered as Democrats, and 49% have registered as unaffiliated. States are attempting to shift their primary elections to satisfy this growing number of nonpartisan voters. 10 states use a closed primary, meaning that only registered party members can vote in closed primary elections that send their winners to the general election. 9 states use a partially closed primary election, meaning that unaffiliated voters can vote in one or the other political party's primary. 26 states use an open primary election process that allows any voter to vote in any primary election. The only catch is that voters cannot vote in multiple primary elections. 5 states use some form of primary election process that allows all voters and candidates to participate in the primary election regardless of political party. These nonpartisan primaries use a variety of forms of ranked choice voting that's designed to shortlist top candidates and then have a runoff in the general election. I'm encouraged to see that we're attempting to accommodate primary elections that result in less extreme candidates, but we're not quite there. Even nonpartisan primaries are resulting in highly partisan politicians that reflect that the majority is still engaged in the fake fight. I must also state that extreme positions are not necessarily a bad thing. When Perry Mason takes on a client, most people think the client's guilty. If you hadn't tuned in to know that Perry Mason is always right, you would have considered him to be an extremist. This is where we need to become better voters. The politicians who will engage in the real debate may have a position on an issue, but they're open to persuasion. They'll strive to see all sides of a political issue, and they will pursue actions that consider all sides. I encourage you to work on your state to help it transition to a primary and general election process that promotes candidates that will collaborate and engage in the real debate instead of battling in the fake fight. I know that politicians get money from special interest groups. I also know that corporate interests contribute to PACs and super PACs to fund campaign advertising. The common belief is that these sizable campaign donations create bias in politicians that will pull these politicians out of the real debate and put them on one side of the fake fight. This is true to some extent, but it cannot outweigh your ability to seek out the truth and support the right candidate regardless of what ads you see and hear. It just so happens that political donations come from organizations who are trying to participate in the real debate. But they want their voice heard, and they want to stifle the voice of an opposing viewpoint. It's up to you to rebalance the tilted scales that paid political ads create. Your unbiased research is the only thing that can successfully combat the large sums of money in politics. In the meantime, I encourage you to challenge your viewpoints. Watch news that contradicts your viewpoint and develop informed views that are not the result of unproven conspiracy theories or emotional rants by partisan politicians. I want to thank you for visiting Reengineering Politics. I plan to continue posting videos on various political topics, so please stay tuned. I'd love it if you like this video and you subscribe to the Reengineering Politics YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, and I hope you return for more political insight that's neither left nor right.